Good evening, everyone. If we'll get started in just 1 second. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If folks are standing or out in the hall, if you want to come take your seat, thank you again for being here to the Resist Together Town Hall and Training with Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. My name is Denzel McCampbell. This is one of the series of town halls that the Congresswoman is having on the campaign side to really help equip, not only update folks on the work that she is doing in Congress, but also equip folks of the skills and knowledge around taking action in the streets and in our communities, which I know many of you have already done, but making sure that we can come together and resist as a community. So thank you all for being here. I want to do one thing. Since this is the 12th Congressional District, who is here from the city of Detroit? All right. Who is here from the city of Westland? Okay. Who's here from the city of Southfield? All right. What about Franklin? Anyone from Franklin? Beverly Hills? Okay. What about Redford? Okay, Redford, there you go. Dearborn? Okay. Dearborn Heights? I'm gonna make sure I don't forget communities. I don't have the list in front of me. I know, I wanna, what about Livonia? All right, okay. What communities am I missing? Garden City? I did Dearborn Heights. Did I cover everyone? Did I say that? Anyone from Garden City? Garden City, there you go, representing. Okay. Well, again, thank you all for being out here in the 12th Congressional District. As we've seen, as you know, folks are from different communities. We all have different places where we come from. We have maybe even different issues that we're bringing up, but we're all here together tonight, one, to learn more information, to hear from our Congresswoman, and really to take action together. So again, thank you all for being here. And with that, I will bring up Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
Thank you, Denzel. Welcome to our Resist Together Town Hall and Training. I think it's really important as we come together to resist fascism together, and it has to be 24/7. As we start this, I do want to make sure that my team knows that we have folks in the overflow room. We're going to try to bring them in because over 400 people registered for this event. Yeah. And one of the really important things as somebody that used to organize in basements of churches and all over Southwest Detroit, know this, in this training, you'll get what you want out of this, right? The things that will resonate with you. Not everything that is being proposed here might be your thing. My mom calls me all the time and says, I couldn't do that. But she will march. She will make the phone calls sometimes. She likes putting stamps on things. But again, you will find what you think, again, for you to make sure that we're resisting together. And when I say resisting, I'm talking about this is us speaking truth to power. The one incredible thing my team and I thought to ourselves at the first one, we said, what can we do to make sure people, because second, third question is always, what can we do? So we have 200 packets of postcards you're going to get when you leave with stamps. Please use them. They cost money. That we're going to send. You're going to say, hi, I'm a Wayne County, I'm a Oakland County resident, and you're going to send it to Macomb County residents. And you're going to say, can you please get your Congress member, John James, to protect Medicaid? So these are really important things. We left it blank. So if education is important to you, maybe something in regards to VA services, whatever again resonates with you, please put that on there and send it, because I find that you all, neighbor to neighbor, have more credibility. If I do, it's like, oh, Rashida's just mad because he's a Republican. No, I'm actually angry because Macomb County relies on Medicaid as much as any of us do in Oakland and Wayne County. It is the primary way we pay for long-term care, as well as so many parents are calling me that have special needs children that rely on it. So let's start with this. And again, this is me letting my team know that we should bring people from the overflow room. There's a lot of seats available. We did leave some seats for folks with living with disabilities and stuff up front, so it's much easier for them. Let me know if you can't hear me, go like this. Okay, and then I will look out for you all and make sure. All right, we're gonna, where's there a click thing? Oh, thank you. I didn't know. You see, I don't even know what it's called. It's click thing. Okay. So some of you, especially Livonia residents, if you're part of the Livonia Democratic Club, I did a similar presentation. Let them all come in. I see them all coming in now. Give them a round of applause. Look at them coming in. If there is an empty seat near you, raise your hand. If there are empty seats near you, raise your hand. There's empty seats near the folks with their hands up. There's a couple right there. Great. Okay. We have a few up front here. I don't know if anybody's here from Madonna University. I want to thank them for accommodating. Thank you so much. Okay, we're getting folks in. There's some seats. Anybody that has their hand up, Tara, there's an empty seat next to them. Yeah, I see those. All right, we're good. Tara, there's some up front here. She's got it. Yeah. All right, great. All right. So we're going to do a quick update, and I'm sorry, I know they don't, I'm going to do this because I can see it this way. Oops, I did something. Oh, it's up here. Okay. Really important. I want you all to know right now what we have currently that have passed and that the president has signed is what they call the temporary budget. You might have heard it. It's called continuing resolution. Again, this is me just giving you a heads up of what this budget will be in place until September. This will be in place in September. I want you to know it cuts housing programs. This is, again, information from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, but 32,000 folks will be in jeopardy of eviction because of the cuts to some of the housing programs. The real big cut, how many of you know somebody that served our country and it got exposed to toxins like Agent Orange? Yep, I've met so many. One of the big successes we had was passing what they call the PACT Act. And the PACT Act created a toxic exposures fund, and it also expanded healthcare coverage for those that need treatment because of being exposed to toxins, Afghanistan, Vietnam, you name it. And they basically now cut that program, $22.8 billion. That program is not in effect right now until September. Real big impact on many of our veterans. It neglects fully funding emergency food programs. You're going to hear more and more at the end. We'll give you some more information. Our food banks are going to need a lot of our support. Much of our seniors who are on fixed income rely on this program for supplemental food assistance. It also cuts the Rural Broadband Community Connect program. Again, this is huge, $30 million cut here. They also cut Army Corps of Engineers. That's a lot of infrastructure projects, y'all. 44% cut there, $1.4 billion. And they, I just want you all to know, good news. They increased defense budget funding by $6 billion. So they got money for that, but they didn't have any money. And then they cut, I know, Laura, I know. We're not going to have a conversation right now about it. So $6 billion, they increased defense funding by $6 billion while cutting $13 billion in other programs that I didn't mention here. I want you to know many of us, 66 House members, I'm one of them, did send a letter to Schumer asking him to oppose the continuing resolution. Unfortunately, that did not, unfortunately, it did not happen. Now I want to go to this. This is what's going on now. This is now in motion. And 2 weeks ago, they got closer to making this happen. So what happens is the Senate passes their version of the budget proposal, House passes their version of budget proposal. In there is instructions for the committees. In there is instruction for the Energy and Commerce Committee. Energy and Commerce doesn't only cover Medicaid, y'all. It covers Medicare, Affordable Care Act. That's where, I know it's weird because it's Energy and Commerce, but that's where the healthcare programs are tucked in. CHIP program, those are where the programs. They want to cut $880 billion out of that committee. Now, We got close in the Senate because I want you to know how close we are. Josh Hawley, which I'm not a big fan of. This is a guy, a senator from Missouri. He tried to offer an amendment. I think they almost got that amendment done where it would have protected Medicaid cuts by, I think we almost got it by 1 or 2 senators, almost. I think Susan Collins was one of the folks that supported it as well. But I want you to know how hard this is, because they're getting, you know, a lot of calls from their constituents, many of which voted for many of them are now very concerned, overwhelmingly concerned about the Medicaid cuts. So I want you to know that's still in play. And you're going to hear people say, well, the word Medicaid is not in there. That's gaslighting you all. Understand that budget, that committee, there's no way you can cut nearly $1 trillion and not touch Medicaid. Every expert will tell you that. So again, don't let them push it around and say, well, the word Medicaid, because I had a colleague get on the floor and put it up and say, the word Medicaid's not in there. And I just looked at him and I was like, but you know that's what it is. That's exactly what's going to happen. I want you to know it did cut $230 billion out of the SNAP food assistance. Again, this impacts a lot of our food programs. And, you know, a lot of people talk about Meals on Wheels. Again, all of that is through the ag. They also cut a cumulative cut of at least $1.5 trillion from other committees. The other cut in there, I just want you to know, is $2 trillion of spending cuts across the board. And we didn't want to list them all, but that's Department of Education. Think of VA services. A lot of people think VA services is in the Pentagon budget. It is not. It is not. It's in Health and Human Services, and it has its own budget too. So just know that. One of the really important things about all of this is people don't believe me sometimes when I say this, but it's there. It's in the books, and it's been reported by all kinds of media outlets. They're doing all this while giving $4.5 trillion, not million, trillion dollars for tax cut for the wealthy. And I'm going to show you, because I want to show you all this. This is important, because I'm going to give you numbers because it's kind of unbelievable, right? But this is an actual number. It's going to give $314,266 average annual tax cut for the richest 0.1%. That's the 4.5 trillion. It also does $2 trillion giveaways for CEOs and powerful corporations. How many of you have Netflix subscription and just went up? Guess what? They cut their tax. That's from the previous tax plan that just got passed. I think they have a 0 or something taxable income. They don't pay any taxes. That's crazy. Again, this is a company that's profiting, and we're telling them they don't have to pay taxes. Again, I showed the direct impact in the 12th congressional district. Know that the Medicaid and CHIP is probably closer, over 300,000. We just got an update from the state today that it's over 300,000 people, and we'll update that number. But I want you all to see that it's close to 100,000 children under the age of 19 and 22,000 of our seasoned residents over the age of 65. And how many of you have Affordable Care Act like me? I know everybody thinks I'm a member of Congress. I don't, yeah. A lot of our retirees, like police officers, so far on Affordable Care Act. I'm on the Affordable Care Act, and you know, I see how much it continues to grow every year. This would increase your out-of-pocket expenses by almost, I think it's by 50%, by $630 per year. And I put down also threatens about 157 people that count on SNAP benefits. But we're going to update the numbers to the 2024 numbers. And now I got to wrap up. Okay. So the first 100 days of fighting fascism, I know it's hard to believe, but it's only been 12 to 13 weeks. I know, breathe. I know, but a lot has happened in 12, 13 weeks. But I want you to know there has been legislation. This is record, you guys, 264 plus bills. So when people say, I'm not cutting Department of Education, great. Go sign Congresswoman Jahana Hayes' bill that says Protect Education Act, if that's true, right? Know that we also have the chair of the Education Labor Department is a member of the Michigan delegation, and that's Tim Walberg. Okay, he's right here in our backyard. The head of the Republican caucus, and again, this is not partisan, it's just me telling you, because some are moving, and I appreciate Josh Hawley and others that are moving to protect Medicaid and some other programs. But Lisa McClain is the chair of the Republican caucus. So remember that too. We have 2 folks. Merit Act, it came about because you remember during pandemic and right in the midst of the pandemic, all of a sudden we thought all these safety nets were there, but we realized it wasn't strong enough. Well, with fascism, we realized, many of us Democrats, and myself, progressive member, the Progressive Caucus member, we realized how vulnerable our federal workforce was. Some of them are on probation for 3 years. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. I'm telling you as a member, I had no idea. Some are on 2-year or 1-year probation. And I mean, I just can't imagine, you hear the 90 days, but this is like 1, 2, 3. And many of them negotiate and try through their collective bargaining agreement to try to reduce it. Many of them, again, told me, we just got it down to 2. We just got it down to 1. But we want it based on merit. And we want to, again, be able to reinstate many of the illegal firings that had happened in regards to that, what Doge and Trump administration has done. We have the Department of Education Protection Act and then the Taxpayer Data Protection Act. You're going to see me introduce a bill much later. We're still working on it and working with organizations. I really feel like Social Security should not be this vulnerable because I don't think this is going to be the last time folks will be attempted, the billionaire class will be attempted to get into the Oval Office, run their businesses out of there, make sure that they come priority with their billionaire class, and basically expose our private information, things that we rely on, like Social Security. And so I am trying to figure out how we can build a wall around it where they can't touch it no matter who's president. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican. We need to protect it a lot more. Yeah, of course. I'm not going to go through all of this, but know that we sent letters. We've done pushback in regards to some of the decisions being made. And some of it sometimes works. I had 57 Head Start programs that couldn't get access to portal. We did a letter. It got through. They got it done. But now you can see they're still going to continue to cut it. We have same thing with Department of Ag, with many of our agencies who rely on these programs. Some of them are in their 3rd year. So they got a 3-year grant. In their 3rd year, they're not getting their last year. So unfortunately, know that I'm on House Oversight Committee, which is really critical right now. We tried to subpoena Elon Musk. You should have seen. I've never seen anybody fight as so much for a guy. I mean, they got over 800,000 people they represent. They were like, oh, why do you got to put, I said, there's no way you guys are not getting calls like us saying, where's Elon Musk doing at Social Security office? What is he doing at all these other agencies? And so we tried to subpoena. They were surprised and we almost got it, but they recessed so that everybody could come back and they had enough votes to get it tabled, which is blocking it from coming in. But we're going to continue to start pushing and seeing if we can get them before the committee, because I think the American people need their questions answered for sure. Yeah. I know you're going to get this question later. Litigation is resistance, though. I know they're not following the court orders. I know, but it's slowing them down. It's providing a lot of transparency for us. Like, I'm actually finding out more information about what they're doing because we're in the courts demanding, getting information, deposing people and so forth. Now, out of the 200 cases have been filed against the Trump administration, Trump has lost 93% of them. That's probably why he's talking about defunding them. And his Easter message yesterday was so awful. I think he went after judges in that one too. So just so you know, but we are, again, fighting through the courts. We're going to fight in the streets. We're going to fight in the courts. We're going to make members of Congress move. But I want you to know it's still a very important tool. On House Oversight, we do have this number. But if you know anybody, and we've gotten 3, if know somebody who works for the federal agencies, there's whistleblower protection, but also they can come to me. I will never, ever, I'm a lawyer too, so I have this I will never, ever expose them or anything. But sometimes they can call us in this tip line anonymously. They don't even have to give their number or their name. And they can tell us what's going on. We got a lot of calls for the VA hospital, and we found out a lot of things that were happening there. And again, this helps us, again, push back and, expose, again, some of the illegal actions. So this is a one-pager you're going to get outside, but it just shows all the things that we've been doing together. We are going to have more Know Your Rights, because now many residents who are green legal permanent residents or even U.S. citizens, but maybe they have an ethnic background, they're asking us to do this. We also have, just now I did a teach-in with the American Federation of Teachers, and we had a teacher who spoke out, again, got in trouble through his workforce. We're going to, again, teach folks where they can find free legal assistance, calling my office, get the pushback in regards to people being not able to exercise their First Amendment rights. So it's really important. But you can grab this later. And I think, okay, we need 3 to 4 Republicans. Remember that. I think one of the things I told the Livonia Dems and some of the folks and even some of the other club meetings I've gone to, and some of residents even on the street, they're like, what can I do? I tell them, you know, we can't control what's happening nationwide. We can control what is in our backyard. And if Michigan can deliver one Republican, especially in an area like Macomb County, which to me, a lot of the various fears and the issues and the impact of cuts to education, impact of VA services, impact on Medicaid, those are things that align with us, and we can move their member of Congress. So if Michigan can deliver one out of the three that we really need, this could be the way we fight back against this fascist regime. Some of these organizations are already outside tabling, so just look out for them. But with that, I'm going to yield back to our folks and have them come up to do the training. Again, I said this to the overflow room, but I'm going to remind you all again, you're going to grab what you want out of this. And this is a training. There's going to be things that you can do. It's never, you know, democracy isn't perfect. It's supposed to be like this. No, it really is. And no, it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be beautifully messy, but it's us for the people, by the people, right? And so know the power that you have. And I always remind people, we did not get the right to organize unions because somebody in Congress in the White House said, wow, that's a really genius idea. We didn't get, I mean, think about it. We didn't get the Civil Rights Act because somebody in the White House said that's a really good idea. It's when people in the communities and our neighborhoods and everybody built coalition and they made the institution move. That's the power you all have. And so when you leave and you take those packages, do it with love, do it with that fear you have. Don't let it paralyze you. Let's act together and resist together. With that, I'm going to yield back to Layla, I think, yeah. I don't know how to do anything. I'm going to say Nadine. You want me to introduce Nadine?
Yes, she's.
Okay, we're going to introduce Nadine. She's with an organization called Beautiful Trouble. So 6 weeks in, I want to say, right, Nadine, was it 6 weeks in? I saw her, I was at a protest with federal workers for OPM. Was it OM? I always get the acronyms wrong. OMP. Was it OMP?
OPM.
OPM, yeah. And we were out there and she comes up, she goes, I think members of Congress need to do a training. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we got Congressman Jamie Raskin. How many of you know him from Maryland? Yep. So Jamie Raskin and I did a training called Beautiful Trouble. We got, now this is a lot, but we did get 6 members of Congress to join us. It was great. They were from all over. And it was great because they all went back to tell other colleagues how good it was. So we're going to have another one. So when she did her presentation and everything, I mean, you kind of get anxious a little bit, but it's also empowering because you're like, okay, but there's a pathway to push back. But Nadine has been on the ground doing incredible work in DMV, I would say, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And so please thank her because we're zooming her in. We were going to get this professor. She was trying to help us. So she did this and filled in for him. I really appreciate that, Nadine. With that, everybody give her a warm welcome from the 12th Congressional District.
All right, thank you. I can't actually hear anything else besides the person speaking in the microphone. So I'm going to assume that we are okay to go. Is that true?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, excellent. And really thank Congresswoman Tlaib. You are definitely one of my personal heroes on the Hill here in Washington, D.C. And I have great appreciation for all the work that you do and the fact that you're continuing to move your constituents to action. I'm really happy to see that there's a call to action associated, an active step associated with tonight's work. So I'm going to jump in really quickly. I know that my experience with Beautiful Trouble, and I am the current training director there, extends to work around the globe with people fighting authoritarians from Myanmar to Nicaragua to Serbia. And I will talk about a little bit of that in the short time I have. And I am very much interested in helping everyone understand what we can do. So we will take a little look at key findings for the moment that we're in. We will look at the players in the current situation, and we will look a lot at what we can do and the strategy behind figuring out how we can counter democratic backsliding in this authoritarian moment. And I'll just start by saying we are in a unique moment in the United States and globally. We have seen over the past 17 years what I would call is a global democratic recession. So there was a peak in the mid-2000s, and since then, there's been a wave of anti-incumbent sentiment sweeping the globe and electing authoritarians in many places, not just in the United States, powered by, I would say, a lot of COVID anxiety and resentment from how that was handled in many places. In the USA, in fact, there's a group called the Polity Project, and they have already downgraded the USA from a democracy to a non-democracy. And they've done this because they consider ignoring the Constitution, our Constitution, or the rule of law here, equivalent to the suspension of a Constitution that we might see in other places. So I think that's something to acknowledge where we are. Also, to really talk about the fact that we can learn a lot from historical movements against authoritarians. And also, we are in a very unique situation because of the speed of change from our democracy to an authoritarian structure and the amount of money and the control that is being exerted over technology and our data by the involvement of billionaires broadly and Elon Musk specifically and the tech corporations. So there's a moment where we have to both bring what we know is true into the future and also learn as we go. So let's move in quickly. Let's see if this works. Oh, yep, here we go. So the good news is that, it's not very common that democracies are challenged in any particular year. The bad news is we've been challenged, and when backsliding occurs, it is often fatal to democracy. In about 100 episodes, right, from the last 120 years or so, about 70% of them broke down into authoritarian rule, and there's a whole bunch more that are still unresolved. So that's really bad news. However, the good news is that we, over the past 30 years, have seen more democratic breakdown cases that have been reversed. So there's been what we call U-turns, and the resulting democracy has actually been stronger and more appropriate even than the one that existed before. The key to all this, and it's probably not going to be new to any of you in the room, is something we call people power, right? And it's really important that we engage as a community in figuring out what people power is and how we build it together. I'm going to make a note here because it's in the screen slide, is that people power movements are way more effective when they involve trade union participation. And that is perhaps obvious because when we want to organize, we should work with groups that are already organized. But as we look forward, this is important for us to remember. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is introduce the players. And of course, there's an authoritarian or an aspiring dictator. Then there are people like us in the federal civil service. There's the judiciary, there's state and local governments, there's opposition political parties, and civil society. The key here, as we just talked about it, is that we want to make sure that folks understand that all of us, except for the authoritarian regime or the authoritarians, are making up what we consider team democracy. The key here is that right now, we are not actually recognizing ourselves together as on the same team. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that is going to be the key to building people power. So let's talk a little bit about what the authoritarian wants to do, right? They're going to divide to rule. They want to prevent our side from playing as a team. They do this through lots of different ways. They might pick off one member of a team at a time, particularly focus on one particular individual or a whole group. They're going to try to compartmentalize the repression and the co-optation among different groups, again, to divide us and keep us from supporting each other. They might use extortion, right? They want to maximize obedience by scaring us with real or actual threats of political violence and other repression. They are probably going to try to avoid creating trigger events that mobilize us, or if they do, they're going to combine them with harsh repression. They intend to do this to sow confusion and distract us from the biggest impact things that we should be focusing on. And they want to provoke opposition violence. They want to provoke us so that they can justify and build support for repression. So there are a whole number of things that we have seen this administration already engage in the bigger sense of what authoritarians do. If I was in the room, I'd have you shout it out, but I can't hear you, so we're just going to go with it. So we have already seen them, for example, give license to law breaking, right? We've seen them pardon the January 6th folks who were actually convicted of law breaking. We've seen regulatory retaliation where groups or media, not-for-profit groups or media have been excluded from certain things or have had their licenses revoked. We've had the military deployed domestically. We have the military already deployed on the southern border and threats to use the Insurrection Act to actually control the rest of the country. It's not legal in the United States to deploy the military to control civilians. We have also heard, of course, the rumors about Trump staying for another term or a third term with or without elections. So there's a lot going on. I'm sure you recognize these methods that they're using to achieve their goals. So on the other side, what's people power? How are we going to actually recognize and build ourselves as team democracy? Well, the term that I'm using, people power, you might also use civil resistance or nonviolent action, lots of things, but I prefer people power because it invokes the idea that we ordinary people can work together for political, economic, and social objectives without resorting to violence or the threat of violence. And it includes everything from protest and persuasion, going to a march or a rally, writing letters, to strikes and boycotts, and even putting into reality our alternative institutions and other constructive programs. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon. Now, this is really critical. Threw this in here because Gene Sharp, who's he's not alive anymore, but he wrote probably the most important research and data-driven work on nonviolent action, makes a very interesting point here that democracies by themselves, or governance or structures by themselves, they don't do anything, right? We, the people, take away the garbage, push the paper around, provide education, or even milk a cow, right? And when we withdraw our consent, when we no longer go along with what is decreed, then we stop the decrees from being enforced. So I'll keep going. Which brings us to what's our goals? What do we want to do? Well, we do want to figure out how to play as a team. We want to figure out how to work in solidarity, maximize the use of the space that we do have. Any space that we don't use, we give up, right? We do not want to obey in advance. We want to push back through channels that are both institutional and non-institutional. So we want to use the electeds, we want to use labor unions, and we want to use regular community-based organizations and structures that are amorphous. We have to identify our red lines, meaning what's the point where we trigger mass mobilization and pushback. And in order to do that effectively and safely as possible, although it won't always be safe, is we need to build our capacity to do it, our mobilization skills, our direct action skills, coordination, communication, so that we can both be flexible and resilient in the years ahead. A big one, and we've already heard the Congresswoman talk about it. We need to avoid despair and dropping out and really invest in joy and community building and remain disciplined and nonviolent to undercut the regime. Now, let's talk a little bit about strategy here. If we picture the government or the regime as the top of a building, and the building, the roof of a building obviously is held up by pillars. And these pillars, we think about these institutional pillars, we think about how they support the regime, whether it's obvious like the military, or it's the business community, or the educational institutions, federal bureaucracies. You can imagine there are a lot of pillars holding up this regime. Now, this building is three-dimensional, right? And these pillars, if you made a cross section, you would notice that they are made of lots of different types of people. In the center, you might, in the military pillar, for example, have generals. And moving out from there, officers. And moving further out from there, soldiers. And there are many more soldiers than there are generals. And these soldiers are much more likely to be related to us. And so they're much more approachable, and we can slowly chip away at these pillars and move them away from supporting the government or the regime that we need to change. This is really important. It's about the consent to be governed or the consent to do what's asked. And it works in a very important way. For example, there's a great story from Serbia and the fight against the dictator Milosevic, when there was a mass of people that had gathered in the square to finally make sure that Milosevic stepped down. The armed forces were lined up with weapons trained on the protesters. And there was an order given to fire on the crowd. The order was ignored, and the order was ignored because of basically the military and the soldiers were looking out into a sea of people that they recognized as their families, their friends, and people who wanted to build a better future together, and they refused that order. And that was a key turning point in this work. Right. So the other thing is we have to think about how we get to these pillars that support the regime. And we have a really lovely strategic way of thinking about this on a spectrum of allies, from active opponents to active allies. And of course, there's people in the middle who don't know much about it, and folks who are not doing much but agree with you on either side. It's really important to think that we win here, not by moving our erstwhile active opponents. Whoops, let's see if it will go back. We want to mostly isolate the active opponents. What we want to do is move the passive opponents into neutrals, and neutrals into passives, and passive allies into active allies. We win by moving small numbers of people a little further over towards our movement. And this is partly based on understanding that of research that Erik Chenoweth and Maria Stefan did that showed that in order that when they looked at historical analysis of what made movements, both nonviolent and violent movements, effective, they found that nonviolent movements were about twice as effective as violent movements. And one of the reasons was because more people could join that movement. The bar to entry was much lower. And also, they found somewhat of a small percentage of people who were actively engaged in their research from this time period. It was 3.5%. If you had 3.5% of your population actively engaged in a campaign to make change, you were likely to win your change. This is really significant, not because the 3.5% is such a magic number. Many groups have won with less, some have lost with more, but because it means that a small number of people, percentage-wise, can make a huge difference. And so we need to hold on to that. In fact, when we look at stories from around the world, we know that people have done many different things, and we need to help people understand the different things that they can do and the different risk levels that they need to contemplate and understand their risk appetite, if you will, for taking on different kinds of things. So we have a picture in the up-hand left corner of activists in Serbia from the example fighting Milosevic. We have a picture in the bottom from Chile coming together to work to oust a 30-year dictatorship of Pinochet. And they eventually did this through a referendum that allowed for new elections. Really remarkable story. And you may recognize the picture, the black and white photo on the right, of people biking and walking and not riding the bus from the Montgomery bus boycott in the United States. So these are examples that we can learn from, all about building community, doing training, and building structures that allowed us to move forward. Let's talk about different types of action that were engaged across these examples and many more. There are symbolic actions. there's alternative cooperation, and there's also non-cooperation. And we referred to this earlier. The protest and persuasion symbolic actions are easy and lower risk. It is the higher risk and much more strategically important to stopping a dictatorship are the non-cooperation actions. And those examples, the worker strikes, the boycotts, the rent strikes, tax refusal, conscientious objections in juries, these things are organized to undermine the authority of an unjust system by disrupting it, refusing to participate in it. And this is one way we pull our consent and stop the regime from functioning. Also very important is alternative cooperation, figuring out how to put in place what we need to stop harms. Now, I wanted to share this because this is also really critical. In case you're only listening to mainstream media, you might think that none of that is happening in the United States or very little is happening. In fact, when we look at the difference between 2017 and 2025, the first Trump administration and what is happening now, the green line here is 2017, the blue line is 2025, and you will see that there are many more than twice as many protests happening in the United States, as this is as of February of this year, than happened in 2017. And this is important. It's important because it means that what there is actually less of is institutional pushback this time around, but there's much more happening on the ground. And this is critical because as we build out our people power, we need to know that we are being joined by many across the board, and we need to figure out how we collectively continue what we're doing and claim each other as part of the same team. So just to bring it all together, a couple more slides. When the dictator decides to divide and rule us, we need to play as a team. We need to show up and stop or slow down what they're doing, and then we will reverse it. We need to put in place alternative structures. We need to vote against the regime in Congress as much as we can, for example. When they're wearing us down and they're trying to pick off one group or individual at a time, we need to care for one another. We need to make sure that we stay in the fight. If they use threats of repression to maximize how people obey in advance, we need to actually prepare for what we think people will do and make repression backfire. And we need to figure out a way to grow our collective courage together. Trainings like this can be an incredible way. Bringing people together is really important. When they sow confusion and distract, we need to help people cut through it. We need to establish red lines that should not be crossed and mobilize us to take action then. If they provoke opposition violence, if they send, people into our crowd to start doing violence, we should be able to hopefully understand and identify it and not take the bait. And further, we should develop our capacity for rapid mobilization. All of this is really important. And I wanted to end just by calling it out and saying, Alice Walker said the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. We've just spent a little bit of time looking at the goals of an authoritarian regime and our goals as people who are dedicated to building a better future and thinking about how we can move it. And we need to start by making sure people understand the types of power they do have, whether they're personal, economic, political. They're going to throw their body in the works, whatever they're going to do, and support each other and taking the risks that we can take to make sure that we turn back this tide. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for having me, and hope the rest of the training goes well.
That was great, Nadine. Thank you. I'm going to have Layla come up. We're going to run a quick video so you can see how amazing this past weekend was in Livonia. I think they expected 300 or 400 people. I want you to see how incredible it was. And this is just one of the 14 communities. There was a number of other communities across the state, but I think it's important to show just how beautiful you all looked, how powerful you all looked. I mean, you are powerful, but it was really important for you all to see. If you missed it, we're going to give you a little snippet of it. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't see it, but it's happening. Oh, where's the sound?
Protest taking part across the country today. These protesters are calling out everything from the Trump agenda to Elon Musk in particular.
Got to go. Hey, hey. And they were out there for hours, and that was me chanting in the background, this is what democracy looks like. But I just want you all to be inspired by the fact it is making a difference. I know, again, I'm a mom and I want to fix it right away. I'm one of those moms, like I want it fixed right away, but just know how incredibly important it is as again, we show the power that we have. This again happened in Livonia, Michigan. So many people came out. With that, we're going to have Erik from Michigan United come up. I first started organizing and introduced to Michigan United when I was a young immigrant rights advocate. They have been an incredibly important in our fight on anti-poverty stuff, even auto insurance, DTE, so many things. And right now they are really leading the fight and organizing and doing trainings to bring folks with us in this movement to resist fascism. With that, give a round of applause to Erik.
Well, it's really great to be back at this university. I started out as what we like to call a lone wolf. I saw pictures of Abu Ghraib and men naked piled up on a prison floor. And it took me to when I was bullied in high school on the floor of a gym locker room and said, I cannot let this happen in my name. And I've been fighting ever since. And I'm sad to report I've failed you all because we're seeing pictures from El Salvador, and it's gotten that bad. But again, I did all that I could as an individual, and I'm really emboldened to see all of you coming together because you're all here for pretty much the same reason. You saw something that was wrong, and you said, I cannot let this happen in my name, and I'm going to do something about it. And here we are. Here we are, and together we can do something about it. And so what I chose to do was to go after John Conyers, who was head of the judiciary and in charge of impeaching the president, then George Bush. After 40 days of pestering his staff, he said, you know, why don't you go pester your own congressman? I hadn't even thought about that. I was such a newbie, I didn't even know who my congressman was. Turns out it was Thaddeus McCotter. Oh, apparently you remember Thaddeus. So, yeah, I called his office every day and said, I'd just like to meet my congressman. How hard can that be? Yeah. Ultimately, I ended up running against him and found out the system pretty much is rigged. It's not a district so much as a franchise. All he has to do is pull in 52% of the vote, and he doesn't have to listen to anyone. And he didn't, and he held on to his seat. And so, you know, happy in the fact that I did all that I could by myself. I went on my merry way. And then I ran into Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Detroit. And I saw what happens when people come together. And that's when I met the organizers at Michigan United. And I realized there's actually a system to this. And what I had been doing this whole time was called direct action, how to put someone in an awkward situation that they have to deal with. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Who remembers the BP oil spill in the Gulf? I think it was probably about 15 years. Right. And they asked the CEO of BP, you know, how is this affecting you? And he says, I just want my life back. Right, he'd forget the people and all the damage to the environment and just the horrors. It's just, I just want my life back. I want to be able to go back to the country club and just have a nice, easy life where no one bothers me. Because sometimes that's all that they really want. And when we're doing a direct action, we want to ask ourselves 4 questions. What is it that we want? Sometimes we don't know. Some of us, we're just angry and we're just out there doing stuff. Think seriously. I mean, what is it that would make you happy? What is the solution? Second of all, who can give you what you want? Right? Sometimes you go for the wrong person and they have no control over that thing that you want. So think seriously about that. Then think about what is it that they want? And or more accurately, what are they afraid of? And then finally, how can I take what they want and move it further away from them? Or bring what they want, or bring what they fear closer to them. And quite often, we're what they're afraid of. Poor Black people in your district office making noise. That's going to really upset them. That creates a crisis. And that kind of brings us to our first point. When we talk about direct action, am I pointing in the right direction? Yeah. There we go. As Martin Luther King said, a direct action is an action that seeks to escalate a crisis and foster such tension that a community that is constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. Right? And sometimes that crisis may just be, I want my life back. If you can create that crisis, it creates tension that they cannot live in that tension. They have to do something about it. They have to make a choice. They have to give you what they want, or they have to live with this crisis for the rest of their life. And that's unacceptable to them. I've got a slideshow that goes on about 2 hours. And I'm not doing the whole thing. I think Rashida saw the whole thing and all the stuff about no, it's just, yeah. All the stuff from the anarchist cookbook has been removed. So you don't have to worry about that, is what I'm saying. Right. So some of the objectives of direct action, right? We want to escalate your voice, to escalate tension, being neglected or overlooked. People who in the past have been invisible are suddenly visible. And this is my favorite part. Force your target to make a choice. I call this putting the man in the box. You want to get out of the box? There's only one way out. You got to do what we've come here to ask, meet our demand. And not only is it going to change your target, it's also going to change your base. All the people that you're organizing with, they're going to go into situations that they're uncomfortable with now, and they're going to come out of it feeling, wow, we can do this. We can go on to the next thing and the next thing, and you feel more and more powerful. And also it draws more people in with you. Your base grows as you saw in that arc of people joining in as we've been going along. Now, the arc of escalation. I'm reminded of a story. This young gentleman was protesting the first George Bush, and somehow like snuck into a press conference and like ripped something on his chest, and he ripped it off. He's like, you know, I've got this demand that I demand you meet, and he'd gotten past security. He's like, okay, what do you want? And he didn't know. He didn't think he was going to get that far. He thought security was just going to snatch him up And he'd be on the news and that would be good enough. This is what we call, the dog catching the car. If you're going to make a demand, you might actually catch the car. Be ready to make that negotiation. But also, don't start at the top, right? I mean, maybe you could just ask him. Maybe he's already on your side. So what we have is called an arc of escalation, starting simply, and we're probably even below the bottom level of this arc of escalation, which is just simply we've all acknowledged that there's a problem, and we need to come together and we need to do something about it. So the first thing you want to do once you've all come together and you're ready to do that is called cutting the issue. And those are the 4 steps, right? What is it that we want? Who can give it to us? What are they afraid of? What do they want? Maybe we can just cut a deal. Because the goal here isn't to, get on the news and make a ruckus. Maybe the goal is just to get what you want, right? Let's keep our eyes on the prize. Next is listening and research. Right? Maybe you're not the first person to ever see this problem before. Maybe we should be looking around. Maybe somebody's already tried this and it didn't work, or maybe the person that you're trying to influence is on your side. Let's find out what the lay of the land is before we go charging off. And then we're seeking recognition, right? We've established ourselves as the authorities, the community, right? We've decided this is a problem. This is what we want. We've worked it out. We have a solution, and we want some recognition. And sometimes a good way to start off this is a very low level kind of direct action. And you may already be doing this, protests in the street, having a press conference, a big rally, what we're doing right now, right? You're gaining recognition. So you have some kind of direct action that it's going to be low level. Again, we don't want to start at the top. We want to just start where people have a way to enter into this kind of organization that we're forming. And then there's going to be a reaction, because we like to say it's not the action, it's the reaction. How does your target react to this? Do they, what was it said? First they laugh at you, then they ignore you, then they attack you, and then you win. And the way that they react is kind of the purpose of the direct action. And so once you have this you've established yourself as a force to be dealt with. Now we're in a position to. Oh,
I was worried about.
okay.
You're not as loud as I am.
I would. Thank you. Oh, hey, hello. Yeah, I'm trying to look over here and be in this microphone. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, this is much better. Yeah, so now you're in a position to actually negotiate, right? They're going to bring to the table, and you're going to say, we want this, this, and this. And at a certain point, you may find you've reached a crossroads, right? You've gotten everything out of them that you can. Well, guess what? It's time for more direct action, right? Apparently, you are not sufficiently afraid of us yet. So we're going to ratchet up the tension until you are ready to deal with the situation, because we are not going away. And quite often, you'll have a group, they'll do a direct action, they don't get what they want, and then they'll just go away. Oh. And that's kind of what they're counting on. You need to be prepared to come back and try again and again and again. And as you are doing this, like I mentioned before, you're building your base. People are becoming more and more invested. They're seeing that you're not, these wild-eyed radicals, right? You've done all the stuff you're supposed to do, right? You voted. You showed up to the PTA meetings. You've written to the letters to the editor. Now we've been forced to do this, and we're reminded of this from the Birmingham Children's March is a great example. I think everyone remembers that. For a lot of folks, the first thing that they saw was the children being attacked by dogs and water hoses. And I think, what kind of parent would send their kids out into that sort of thing? Well, it didn't start there, right? They started with prayer vigils. They started by doing all the rational stuff. Thank you for the third hand. Doing all the things that you're expected to do. And it wasn't Martin Luther King says, I want you to give me your kids and have them attacked. It's like, no, look, we've tried everything. What do you want to do? And it's like, you know what? I don't want my kids growing up like this. I'm willing to do this. The base was that escalated, that they were ready to do that. And it worked. It elevated at an awful cost, but it worked. Now, some of the things that direct action does, it shifts the pillars of power and gains defections. And I think we heard a little something about the gaining of defections, right? We have a military that has generals at the core, but it also has soldiers on the outside that are probably dealing with a lot of the same problems we have, right? They're just trying to feed their families on a military budget. And if they're forced to go and attack people with the same problems they are, they're going to go, maybe I'm not on the right side. And you're going to see a lot of that, with the police and other entities. It imposes costs. Like I said, we want to put the man in the box. If he doesn't do what we say, there's got to be a cost for that. And it may be his reputation. If it's a corporation, like right now, we're boycotting Target. That it costs actual dollars. Yes, applaud that. Applaud that. And it enables widespread participation, as we're kind of seeing here. It's great if you do some kind of stunt or street theater on the corner, but isn't it so much better if that catches on? That becomes a meme. People all over the country are doing that gag, and whenever you see this politician, you think, oh yeah, that's right. That's what we've been making fun of all this time. So the ability for it to catch on and spread. What direct action does not do is almost as important as what it does do. It doesn't just highlight a problem, right? You don't just come with a problem. You don't go into the street and say, I'm angry. I demand happiness. No one can give you that, bro. You got to tell me what you want. Have a demand. I think I mentioned before, it's not the first step in the escalation. I don't know if you got radical friends like I do. I run into a problem. They're like, oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go and storm into that office and we're going to, well, what if we just ask them? Why don't we ask first? And if we don't get it, then we'll come up with something kooky. Don't do it just to get press, right? Because worst case scenario, then a reporter sticks a microphone in your face and says, what do you want? And you don't have that answer, right? You have to be already developed that far ahead. This is one of my favorites because it's kind of where I started. Don't shout at empty buildings. How many people have been to a protest on a Saturday afternoon because, well, I don't have work? And you go there and the people that you're protesting, they don't have work either. Yeah, that's not very effective. Catch them when they're in there. You want to get as close to your target as possible. Make it painful for them. And this is key. Nonviolent direct action is explicitly nonviolent. I say that in here, we're democracy. Out there, we're an army. There may come a time when violent direct action is necessary. We've had a civil war. The American Revolution was just basically a big violent direct action. That time may come. I hope it never does. I'm trying to avoid that. If you want to make that argument, make it now. Let's have this discussion now. Because I don't want to get in the street and have you go off and throw a brick and now we're on the same side, because I don't want that. We have to decide before we go and do this thing that we're going to be nonviolent. And there's a lot of reasons. Some of that the last person mentioned. It enables wider participation in violent actions. People get arrested and then they can't continue. And And also, I mean, just the big thing is you can't tell who the good guys and the bad guys are. Who are the good guys and bad guys here? I can't tell. They look alike. They're all wearing the same gear. They're all beating the hell out of each other. There's no good guys. There's no bad guys. It's just a mess. And then you've got a situation back in Birmingham. Who's the good guy here? Who's the bad guy here? It's got to be that clear, right? Because not everyone's going to have an analysis of the entire situation. They're going to be driving by, they're going to look and they go, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? This here is pretty clear. And if it's that clear, you will be memorialized like that. You will always be remembered. And this is what the police don't want to be remembered as. Put the man in the box. That's the cost. How much time do I have? Okay. Okay, because now we're going to kind of get into the nuts and bolts. 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Okay, good. Woo, 10 minutes. All right, let me just try and whistle through this as fast as I can. Because a direct action, as I learned, has, it's like a baseball team, right? There's different rules, there's specific things that you want to do. And here are the teams, right? You've got a program team. These are the people that are going to deliver your message. You have a police liaison team. When you get into this awkward situation, the cops are going to show up. You don't want the cops coming in busting up your party. You have someone there to intercept them and stall them as long as you can. Let them know this is a nonviolent direct action. They can put away their guns and just give me a minute to do my thing. Right. Okay, good. Marshal team. This is a really important team. They make sure that if you're going from one place to another, you get there safely, you go in the right direction. I actually had a direct action where somebody opened up a gate to the back of DTE because we were protesting DTE, and we went into the parking lot and they closed the gate. They could have just had us all chained up in there for the rest of the day. Marshals need to know where's the right place to go or not to go. Just because someone opens the gate, don't go in there. And also, you don't want anyone getting hurt, A, because you don't want anyone getting hurt, but B, because if you have this big protest, somebody gets hit by a car, the news is going to say somebody got hit by a car at the protest. And then I'm going to ask what you were protesting anymore. The story's going to be about this person that got hurt, and rightfully so. So you want to keep the focus on why you're there. Marshal team is keeping people safe and also de-escalating situations so that there's no fights, so that it's clear who the good guys and who the bad guys are. If you have a large group of people, having a first aid team on hand is a good idea. A media team, there's a whole process. I spent like the first 10 years with Michigan United as the communications director, getting press to show up and talking specifically to the people that you prepared to give your message to the press. Because if a tree falls in the forest, no, it doesn't make a sound. It doesn't matter if it fell or not. No one knew about it. So getting the media there is important. The energy team. This is an extraordinarily important team. Yeah, I mean, they do the chants and the cheering and everything. But if you're trying to disable your opponent, having like hundreds of people chanting and cheering all at the same time and turning them on and off with like a light switch is a really powerful tool. And a really well-honed, well-prepared energy team is great for that. And if you're really ready to go to the next step, a civil disobedience team. This is where, you know, they're ready to get arrested or do something next level. Yeah, but it's always very strictly planned. Quickly, this is how they relate. There's usually one person, or at least a small group of people at the very top. They're going to decide, okay, the cops are about to start arresting people. It's time to pull the plug and get out of here. Or they're going to negotiate. You know, maybe we catch the car. And they're going to be the ones that are going to be talking with the CEO or the congressperson. And then each of these teams is going to have a lead that's going to make a decision and say, okay, like the energy team's going to say, okay, everyone start chanting now. Okay, everyone stop chanting now. And this is the relationship, right? Police liaisons talk to police. The media team talks to the press. And The marshals, first aid, and energy team deal with the general crowd. 5 minutes. A press conference is a great way, well, it's a great way. It's how you get your message out, right? You do some crazy stunt in the street and the press goes, why did you do that? Well, we're going to do a press conference and we're going to explain why. We're going to have the people there who are going to tell you why we're so upset and what our solution is. And these are the roles of folks that you want there. The person that you most want in a press conference is the second one here, the testimonial, the directly impacted person. We like to say the person closest to the problem is the person closest to the solution. If you don't have someone who's actually directly impacted, what are you doing out there? This person's going to be able to tell a very personal story about how this problem is affecting them. But then other folks there are there to back them up: validators, policy wonks, elected officials, moral authorities, and so forth. I learned this early on. The horseshoe. Your energy team, not only do they chant, they also make signs. And these signs help you at an instant tell what they're there for, right? We've got let Median get treatment, stop Median's deportation, save his life. Apparently there's someone named Median, his life is in danger, he has some kind of medical condition, and he's in danger of being deported. You can tell that in like 3 seconds. You form these folks up in a horseshoe so that when people are taking pictures of Rashida, no matter which angle you're looking at, these folks are in the background. That's his, yeah, these are his friends and family supporters that are doing this press conference. This is like the standard press conference arrangement. Learn it quickly. Police liaisons are there, like I said, to stall the police, remain calm, respectful of the police. Here's another thing I forgot to mention earlier. Usually, if you do like an occupation or something, you go into someone's office, someplace that you're not supposed to be, the first person you're going to run into is security. And security can't arrest you. They like you to think that they can. They're going to be intimidating. They got, you know, a suit and a little badge and whatever. And you want to like negotiate with them as long as they think they have some power. And at some certain point, they're going to call the actual police. Then the actual police come in. And then, okay, you have authority. I'm going to obey you because we're not here to get arrested. Or are we? Decide that before it happens, is my point. Because, right, we do not listen to security officers. We negotiate with them. But when the police come up, okay, I'm going to listen to you because I don't want to get arrested. I'm not there yet. I may get there, but I'm not there yet. And the police liaisons are going to be in touch with the marshal lead. Marshal lead says, okay, wrap it up. The marshal lead will tell the energy team, it's a good idea. Oh, pro tip, have a chant that when the cops show up and it's time to leave, everyone starts chanting that. And everyone knows, okay, it's time to go now. Right. Things you do not, and if your police liaison, the first thing you want to do is build rapport with the cops. As soon as they come out, hey, I'm your new best friend. I'm your communication with this huge group of people, and they all seem angry and unreasonable, but not me. I'm here to negotiate. I'm here to facilitate. What can I do for you? Can I get you something to drink? And so, yeah, build that up right away. Have a rapport with them. Do not touch the police ever. Don't touch them on the shoulder and say, "Hey, look over here." Don't shove them. Just do not touch the police. That is key. Do not insult the police. Do not argue with the police. Always be polite. Civil disobedience. I think this is the last thing on my list, and I gotta. This one is planned, right? Because I think I've only been in one like full blown, okay, we're going out in order to get arrested kind of situation. We were in DC, and the people who were supposed to be arrested had a red armband around their arm. They were standing with a sign in front of the White House because you're not allowed to hold a sign in front of the White House. And the police paddy wagon shows up, leads them out one by one into the paddy wagon. The news crews are filming the whole thing. And then they go off to the DC jail, and they already had bail waiting for them. And the reporters knew that they were going to come out of the jail like within a half an hour, and they were all interviewed like within a half hour. It's like Disneyland. It's so prescribed. Like this happens every day. Happens all the time. But also when this happens, sometimes people, oh, I'm just as angry as you are, brother. I'm with you. I'm going to jail too. It's like, well, we don't have bail for you, son. I mean, I appreciate the energy, but we need to think this through first. Okay, it's been a lot of fun talking to you, and thanks for having me. I think I'm out of time.
Give it up for Erik. I always loved Erik and had so much respect for him. But now that I know he ran against McCotter, wow, you just went up a couple notch. We're going to have Clarissa come up soon. But just really quick, I'll tell you, in Southwest Detroit, where I grew up, we had a billionaire who owns the bridge company. You know, the Maroons own the bridge. Well, you should know they literally took some city streets down, all this stuff. They weren't following the law. I mean, talk about lawlessness. Judge was holding him in contempt. He went to jail for one day. We were so fed up. We had started We Have a Right to Breathe campaign. We started the Bridge Watch Detroit group. And at the end, we decided, and it escalated, right? We were doing protests. We were doing press conferences, teach-ins, things like this to train up residents that were like so fed up. Literally, their home was a block away from the bridge, and said, I'm so tired of this, Rashida. And at the end, we decided, okay, we're going to do some civil disobedience. Karen was our front line. I don't, Karen, you don't remember this. But we ended up saying, you know what? Done. We're going to block the trucks. And we did for 45 minutes, but we knew it was only 12, even though hundreds of people showed up, there was 12 of us, including myself. We knew that we got on our knees and blocked the trucks, then we knew we were going to possibly get arrested. But of course, we had the National Lawyers Guild who's going to come up. I'm a proud member of the National Lawyers Guild. I think I'm the only member of Congress that is a member of the National Lawyers Guild, very proud member. And we have them there, of course. They're the basic marshals in many ways. They're the ones who interact with the police. It's great because I can tell you from my work with the National Lawyers Guild as a law student, and then later, when I was on the ground, all I know is the police finally show up, of course, because Border Patrol couldn't touch us, immigration officials couldn't touch us, because I knew that if we stayed on the state road, we weren't legally under federal authority. And it was amazing because we called our Windsor neighbors and told them, heads up, we're going to do this. So just really sorry about the traffic that's going to be. And they're like, no, get them. This is great. They were so happy. But at the end, I'm sitting on my knees. I remember looking to him right. My friend Joe Rashid is next to me, and we're all doing this. And here comes the officer, and he was from one of my other civil actions. And I was one of the Lawyers Guild members, and I think it was about closing a library. We were trying to block a closure of a library. And who comes in there? He became the deputy chief for the Detroit Police Department. As he came up, and I'm in there, and he looks down, he goes, I knew it was you, Tlaib. I knew it. And I was like, come on, just come on, you just gotta do this. He goes, you got 45 minutes. And he walked away. And he gave us 45 minutes, even though they were trying to scare us, and they let a box fall out of the back of the car with the wiring. So it was really scary. And I was scared for my residents of like, oh my God, but we were ready. But I can tell you, even in that moment, it escalated to the moment. But we got our park back. We did. And we made sure that he wasn't going to close down 4th Street. So that was really good. Let's give it up for Clarissa, who is going to do the National Lawyers Guild. By the way, you do not have to be a lawyer or have a legal background to be a legal observer with the National Lawyers Guild. And again, this is our last presentation. We're going to open up for questions. But again, I want you to know who the green hats are. One thing I noticed with the Livonia march, we call the hands-off rallies, is, there was great, I saw folks in vests, but I also was very worried, like, where are some of the folks that are going to deal with, maybe first aid? I noticed we didn't have water. These are things. So as we're growing this movement, as we're growing these rallies and these protests, we want to make sure we build these structures to make sure everybody stays safe. Give it up for Clarissa.
Thank you so much.
I guess.
This mic, this thing, Yes. All right, we're good. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Great. My name is Clarissa Grimes. I am a member of the National Lawyers Guild. I am an attorney. I am an immigration attorney, and I am also a criminal public defender as well. And so I have been working with the National Lawyers Guild ever since I joined in 2020. I went out to a protest because I needed to be out there. And somebody said, hey, you're a lawyer. You should go talk to those green hat people. And I did. And here I am 5 years later. If you are not familiar with the National Lawyers Guild, we have a website. You can learn a lot more. There's a lot of cool history with the NLG. They've been doing a lot. They were actually founded in 1937. They were the first racially integrated bar association. And since then, they have been doing a lot of work specifically with their Legal Observer program, which was founded in 1968 to support anti-war protests and the civil rights movement as well. And so there's a couple different things. If you're out at a protest and you see some folks with these green hats, specifically these green hats, they say National Lawyers Guild on them. We are out there specifically to observe. That's what we do, legal observers, we're observing. We are observing in case there is any interaction between the police and the protesters that may require legal action later. So we're observing and we're taking notes, and that's what we're there to do. So sometimes people get confused. They see us out there and they're like, great, the lawyers are here. We're all good. And it's like, yeah, not exactly. I wish, but we're not that powerful. So I'm here today to talk to you all about knowing your rights in the streets when you are participating in one of these direct actions or these protests. A couple things I want to say ahead of time is just because you know your rights doesn't mean that when you're out there, your rights are not going to be violated. These things that we're talking about today they're here to protect you. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen to you out there. What it means is that you're going to make your lawyer really happy later when they are trying to defend you in court. If you comply with these rules, with these principles, it sets up your legal defense to have the most amount of success that it can. And so that's why it's important, because sometimes, again, people think there's these like magic words that will protect them. That's not the case. You are participating in a legal strategy, and even participating in that legal strategy, not at the protest, but later on, can forward the movements that you are trying to propel as well. And this is true even in nonviolent direct actions. Just because you're participating in a nonviolent direct action doesn't necessarily mean that you might not experience violence yourself. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. That doesn't always happen, but it's good to be prepared and to know your rights. So that's what we're talking about today. Great. All right. I'm pointing it here. Amazing. Thank you. I can click. Okay. So this can be a difficult thing to talk about for some people. I imagine in this room, like myself, you are raised to believe that the police are your friends. They're there to help you. If you get lost, you go find a police officer. That's what I was taught. Not everybody is taught that. We can imagine some reasons why, perhaps. But it's really important to remember that when you are participating in a direct action, you are out there because you are placing yourself in opposition to the status quo. Your goal is to make change. Your goal is that you don't want things the way that they are. And if the police are out there, the police don't necessarily have those same goals. You're not necessarily on the same team. And this is a difficult thing because I have family members who are police officers. I also have been at protests where I was complying with police officer orders and they used their baton on me or they arrested me. So it's important to remember, in order to keep yourself safe and to keep your fellow protesters safe, who may be out there with some more liabilities than you might have. You might be out there with people who are not documented. You might be out there with people who are just statistically more at risk because of the way that they look. And we know that this is a true thing. So it's really important to follow this rule, especially, and now I'm going to put on my law professor hat and talk about the Fourth Amendment. And we all know the Fourth Amendment from watching Law and Order, right? When you are at but it's kind of true. When you are at a protest, I like to tell people the more that if you are in a situation where a police officer is trying to talk to you, it's like a game. The more your mouth is open, you're losing. If your mouth is shut, then you are winning. Because police officers will often try to come up to you at a protest and maybe just try to talk to you, be like, hey, what's going on? How's it going? Like, what are you all here for? I don't know what's going on. And that's a situation where you want to let somebody else handle it if there are marshals there who are trained to specifically talk to the police. It's also important if you're in a position where you may have been arrested or detained, because anything that you say can be used against you in court. And you don't have to wait for them to Mirandize you necessarily. This rule applies across the board. So it's really important to keep this in mind, even if it's sort of counterintuitive. You want to explain what you're doing. You want to explain the righteousness of why we're out here, and you want people to understand. But in these contexts, in order to keep yourself safe legally, it's important to not talk to the police. So we are going to get to a point where I can tell you what you can say to the police, because there is sometimes where you have to say things. But I'm going to move on here. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Hey, okay, great. So this is sort of a follow-up to that. Sometimes when you're in a protest situation, police officers may come up to you, like I said, and try to just strike up a conversation. They might be fishing for information. They might even stop you and detain you and be like, hey, what you're doing, whether maybe it's walking in the street, maybe it's using a loudspeaker. They'll try to say, hey, what you're doing is not legal and we need you to stop. At that point, it's really important to remember that they are legally allowed to lie to you. They're legally allowed to tell you, like, oh, hey, if you stop doing this, we'll leave everybody else alone, even if that's completely not true. They are allowed to do that. They're permitted to do that. And so it's good to be expecting them to do that, and just follow the basic rule of don't talk to cops. However, even though it is legal for cops to lie to you, it is not legal for you to lie to the police officers. Yeah, I know, right? We're going to go through the next couple slides. We're going to go through the magic words of things that you are allowed to say to police officers to keep yourself and your fellow protesters safe. But I usually recommend, unless there is a really good reason where you might be more at risk if you were arrested and cops might find out your identity, it's good to keep your ID on you in case you are arrested. Sometimes that makes the process go faster. And also, yeah, it just helps things go a little bit more smoothly. So it's okay to, like, if you are actually at a point where you're like, I'm arrested, I'm in handcuffs, and the cop's like, what's your name? You can tell them your name. That's okay. That's going to help your friends and your fellow protesters find you later in the jail. That's why we want to do that. And don't give them a false name or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm a public defender. You're not as smart as you think you are. They'll figure it out. Like, don't be my client. That's all. Okay. All right. So now we are going to talk about, oh, one more thing. Yes, consider what you bring. 10 minutes? Oh my gosh, we're doing so great. All right. Consider what you bring. Don't bring illegal things with you when you get arrested. That's just not going to help anything. That will not make your lawyer happy. Make your lawyer happy. We all get it? We got it? All right, moving on. All right. Magic words. If you are at a protest and a police officer comes up to you and tries to talk to you, this is magic phrase, magic words that you can say. If he just walks up to you and is like, hey, how's your day going? You actually don't have to answer. I know we're all Midwesterners and we really like to be polite and we want to say like, oh, I'm fine. How are you too? You don't have to do that. You really don't. You'd rather not talk about your day. There's no law that requires you to speak to a police officer when he is approaching you. What you can say, so you could just walk away. If you're feeling like you can't just walk away or feeling a little uncomfortable, you can always ask the officer, am I free to go? And if they say no, then you can ask them if you're being detained. If they say yes, then you're being detained. And that kicks into gear the law of they're required to like provide you notice that anything that you say in court can be used against you. They may not do that at this time. But at that point, if you are detained, it becomes really important to just not say anything at all, except the next phrase. Oh, okay, we're gonna do this backwards. All right, the next thing you can say, if you have asked the officer if you are free to go and they say no, then at that point you say, I don't want to answer questions. I'm going to remain silent. I want to see my lawyer. And then you say nothing at all. You can just keep repeating. And then they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm just trying to ask you a couple questions. I am going to remain silent. I would like to talk to my lawyer. You can say that as many times as you want. You can say it 100 times. You could probably annoy them. It's fine. But that is the thing that is going to keep you the most legally safe further down the road. And it's so hard to do this. It's so hard to do this. I actually sometimes will practice saying these words out loud to myself when I'm driving in the car, because once you get into the moment, it's really hard to make those words come out of your mouth. So grab a friend, practice saying these words to each other. And that's how you're going to be able to keep yourself safe. So I'm going to go back to the one that I skipped. Oh yeah, so this is if the officer detains you, you ask, am I free to go? They say, no, you're not free to go. They might ask you if they can search you. Presumably, the purpose of this law is to see if like somebody's being stopped, to see if they have any weapons on them that might pose a danger to the officer. And probably they're going to search you anyway. If they get into their minds to search you, they're going to search you. But what you want to do is make sure that you say that I do not consent to a search, because the consent exception is an exception to the Fourth Amendment, which requires that somebody get a warrant before they search you. But if you give your consent, they can just do it anyway. So it's so, as a public defender, I'm watching so many body cam videos of people get pulled over on the side of the road and the cops are like, hey, can I search your car? They're like, yeah, man, no problem. And then they find who knows what's in there. And then all of a sudden they're arrested. And if they only had said, no, I do not consent to a search, even if the officer went ahead and searched the car anyway, I would be able to say, sorry, judge, no go. So that's how we can keep ourselves safe, by not consenting to a search. Where are we? Okay. If you are arrested, I can tell you from my experience from being arrested, they had me in handcuffs for a little bit. I was put in the back of a police car and transported to DDC. At one point, I did not have this experience, but some of my friends did at a different protest where they actually brought them inside to DDC and booked them. And so basically they'll take your fingerprints, they'll take your property, and you are in jail temporarily. However, you still have rights in jail. And in jail, the next step in the legal process is for an arraignment, because you have a right to know the charges that are being filed against you. And so if there are going to be charges filed against you, it depends on the process. Sometimes people are just kind of like given a ticket and let go right away. That I've seen that happen at protests, especially at protests where just so many people are getting arrested. It's just not feasible for them to like, but you know, if they're feeling really spicy, sometimes you can arrest, 50 to 100 people and hold them all somewhere downtown and see what happens. But generally, it's more like they'll book you, they'll hold you for a little bit, and then you'll get released, and then you'll have a court date. And that's when you also want to call the NLG so we can help you find somebody to actually help represent you in court, because this is part of resistance too. we're not just going out and protesting and being like, okay, well, I'm going to just fall on my sword and anything can happen to me and I'll be, it's for the cause. It's like, well, no, we want to resist legally as well. And so I feel like I got a little off track there. I just get so excited. Okay. Important if you're participating in a protest and you have any particular kind of medication, what I would do is to bring a list of my medications with me, with my identification, and those medications in their original prescription bottles, maybe enough for like 3 days, just in case, like, it depends on the jail. There are different jails. Some of them won't let you like bring your own medicine, but there will be like a nurse on staff and you have to say, hey, nurse, I have these medical conditions. Please give me my medicine. And some of them might just let you. It really depends on the situation, but you do have a right to food and water and a place to go to the bathroom and to be medicated even while you are arrested and even while you are in jail. And so if that's something to think through with a friend ahead of time. It's really important to think through, do I have responsibilities at home? Do I have kids? Do I have pets? Do I have houseplants that need to be taken care of while I'm gone? And figure out contingency plans in case you're gone a little bit longer than the couple hours on the Saturday afternoon you thought you might be. Okay. All right. So we're all going to practice saying these words out loud together right now. Are we ready? All right. First, 1, 2, 3. Am I free to go? Am I being detained? I do not consent to a search. I'm going to remain silent. I want to see my lawyer. Amazing. You guys are awesome. All right. So this is the NLG Michigan hotline number. Something that you can do if you don't have this number burned into your brain like I do, is to take a Sharpie and write it down on your arm before you go to a protest. That way, if you are in a situation where you got arrested and you didn't have your phone and couldn't look something up, you can still have this number to call. You might leave a voicemail, but the important thing is to let them know that you have been arrested and where you are. Or if you see somebody who's been arrested and you want to let the NLG know as well, they will be a great resource for helping you find a lawyer to represent you in the next part of your resistance. Yes, and also if you are planning a protest and you would like to request legal observers, you can go to this website, tinyurl.com/need legal observers. There, you can also find it on the website. Ask around, find a friend who knows who we are. We can get you connected. And you can also email our LO coordinator at michigannlg.org. And that's what we got. Thank you all.
Thank you, Clarissa. This is really important. Let me tell you why. At the Livonia hands-off rally, two folks that were opposing why we were out there and approached, and of course one of our participants got in the, you guys know what I'm talking about. I instantly was going to get him. I was watching, but the officers handled it, I think, fairly well. My team didn't even notice why I was starting to walk really slow to watch. But no, it's really important because not only one, but two, a gentleman in a red truck, I think one had a Confederate flag, was really trying to agitate, right? And that's where we got to train ourselves not to engage. But unfortunately, we're all very, angry and so forth. So one of the participants got in back and forth, and boy, was he talking to the officer. And I just felt, you never know. And the person that was agitating us was quiet. It's like he knew, and our I did not know. So it's really important to know in these situations, again, how important it is to be aware of this. But having legal observers at these events is important because of those situations. And sometimes, honestly, you never know where things might land. I was constantly worried because the officers kept approaching me as if I was organizer. no, really. And I said, oh, no, no, you see the folks in the yellow vest, approach them. They're out there because they wanted folks to move away from the street and so forth. But again, it's really important. I'll tell you, they came really, really handy when we did Movement for Black Lives protests. So many young people were out there. I mean, it was beautiful. They were singing, they were marching. And in one instance, it got very, very ugly and aggressive. As one incident became this large, big, just a debacle of just, it was awful and people got hurt. So again, it's just really important to always have them there. I'm going to hand it over for instructions about question. And again, I'm really sorry, but I wanted you guys to hear from all the speakers and get as much information as possible.
All right. Thank you, Congresswoman. I will also add I have been a part of many direct actions, and we have planned out who would get arrested and who would not get arrested. And if you follow what folks,
I always signed up to get arrested.
yeah, not me.
It's true. It's true. Denzel's like, I'm not doing it. I'll say I'll do it. Yeah. It was for good causes, I
Yeah,
promise.
for sure. And folks, and as Erik said, the roles are key, especially when you're planning protest out. So here's how Q&A is gonna go. I'm gonna come around, Bree and I here. That is Bree. Hey, Bree. We're gonna come around with the mic. We're gonna hold it for you. I know some folks want to hold the mic. We're gonna hold it for you because of this. We know you have a lot to say, and we know we know that folks have a lot of things that we're feeling and this going on. The Congresswoman will be here afterwards. If you want to have a longer conversation with her, she will be here. We want to make sure that folks who do have questions get their questions asked and answered. So you're going to have 2 minutes to say your question. I know it's 2 minutes, but get your question out. If you want to provide some little context to it, that's great. Layla here will have a timer. We'll just show 30 seconds and then time.
Away from the last one.
Yeah, and
Well, because people didn't get a chance.
and we know you all came out here today, and you have questions, and we want to make sure we get to everybody. Okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna have more of these, I promise.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna start on this right side. What we're gonna do, we're gonna half up the room. Bree will be on this side. I will be on this side. We're gonna go back and forth, and we're gonna get everyone. So don't worry. I'm gonna go this row, the next row, and back that way. Okay. All right. We're gonna start right here.
Number. Okay.
Hello, Rashida Tlaib. It's a pleasure to have you representing us in the 12th district. I was just giving a speech at United Nations Monday and Tuesday.
I saw your pictures, yeah.
Yeah, and I ran into some students, well, younger people. They were from Norway. And when I told them I was from Detroit, the first person they said, you know who Rashida is? I said, yeah, she's my congressperson. So you well like and you're appreciated around the world. My question to you is this. How hopeful are the Democrats for those 3 or 4 Republican lawmakers to join them to defeat that bill that's going to cut $880 billion from healthcare?
Yeah, so I can tell you right now, there's a group called Protect Our Care. They are running a total of 10 million ads in these Republican districts that are movable. Why are they movable? There's one in California, David, I can never say his last name starts with a V. He has 62% of his constituents rely on Medicaid. So the ads are saying he just voted not once, but twice to cut your Medicaid, and they're sending it out. He only won his election by less than, I think, 4,000 votes. So again, they're being very intentional. Protect Our Care are the folks that have fought for, they're fighting for universal health care, Medicare for all. They're really fighting on the forefront. So just know they're being, again, not just Democrats, but these organizations that are fighting to fix our sick care in our country, to make it truly healthcare in our country, are out there targeting these folks to move them. So I love the fact that, because Democrats, sometimes they rely too much on polling. And the thing is, many of people like me and others, they're not going to listen. These Republicans are not going to listen, but they do not want their residents to know exactly what they're doing in Congress in Washington, D.C. And they're getting informed right now. So we think they're movable, especially because, again, I never thought Josh Hawley, of all people in Missouri, in the Senate side, offered an amendment that almost passed, y'all, almost passed in regards to protecting Medicaid. The great news is what we know, and this was said in the Democratic caucus, we are happy that a lot of people know what Medicaid is. You know, sometimes you're trying to fight for certain programs like the PACT Act for our veterans. A lot of people might not know what that is, but boy, do the American people know what Medicaid is, because they either are impacted directly or they know someone that is.
All right, we're gonna go to this side with Bree.
Are the police allowed to be undercover in the crowd, or can we assume that everyone in the protest is friendly and one of us?
Yes, they are allowed to be undercover. I only know this because as a young student that protested in Washington, D.C., there were tons of them always in the audience. You know, I've been a person that's fighting against the implosion of the Pentagon budget that hasn't passed an audit in so long. And, you know, just seeing it again become so driven by profit. You know, going to war has become so profitable for these folks that lobby my colleagues. And I know for a fact that they are in the crowd. So they are allowed and permitted to do that. Now, I can tell you, we all have, you know, police officers that we know that are friendly. Some of them protect me. What I can tell you, sometimes they do it also to protect us. Again, though, I would still follow these guidelines. Okay. Many of them sometimes will be on the crowd because they are trying to prevent anybody from doing harm to the crowd. For instance, ever since what happened in, you know, especially on, you know, Charlottesville and other places where people are driving through the crowd, you know, all those things. Those are things that very much are at the forefront of very much local electeds that want to protect us. So sometimes they do try to put folks in the crowd. Again, I don't know the effectiveness of it, if it prevents anything, but they are absolutely legally allowed to be in the crowd undercover.
All right.
With the don't touch a police officer, one time I touched a police officer's car
Yeah.
and you would have thought I was trying to steal their
Yeah,
baby.
don't
So
do any of that.
are we allowed to touch? I mean, I don't
I
like
mean-
to touch their cars, but one time I
I mean,
touched it and.
yeah,
my
do you
God.
want to answer that, Clarissa?
Sure.
You know, yeah.
Are you allowed to touch a police officer's car? So, okay, this is an interesting question. No, the answer is no. You're not allowed. Okay, sorry, spoiler alert.
I'd just be very cautious in any engagement.
Right, and everybody has different risk
Even the
assessments.
dogs, right, Clarissa? Like sometimes my residents want to say, oh, look at,
Oh,
don't
no.
touch that. Please stop.
Yeah, well, don't touch anybody's dog without their permission.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely don't want to touch the
Good
police
point.
dogs. That choice, and some people make this choice, but that choice is going to put you further at risk.
Absolutely. Next question over here. Anyone in this row? Oh, then I'll go to you. All right. Don't have to stand.
Hello, I'm glad to be here because I've been so upset about this. That sending all these immigrants back to Mexico and Donald Trump is fighting fentanyl coming into the country and so forth. But I have not once heard of a federal task force that is going after the drug dealers. And I haven't heard anyone ask Donald Trump, why haven't you put as much energy into the people buying the fentanyl? Because if I'm selling apples and nobody buys the apples, I'm out of business. So I mean, can somebody ask him, where are the people who are after the people who are buying the fentanyl?
Yeah, I can tell you. So I visited the port of entry at the Ambassador Bridge because we had heard of families, some over 300 hours being detained in the office building because our northern border is not built for long detainment, especially of children. She had a 5-year-old and 1-year-old. And so I went down there. We can give them a 24 hours notice. Even when we're down there, you should be happy to see this. I don't know how public I should be about, but they basically said, look, we're not in the business of detainment. We're in the business because most of them are just making that wrong turn. Like one family, she was trying to go to Costco and somehow she put the Windsor address, and it was awful. It devastated her whole family. And so what I heard from them overwhelmingly without directly saying to me was, we're just trying to stop drugs and people from coming in, and also the drugs. I mean, that's what they're trying to do at the Canadian port. I mean, they are finding fentanyl, ecstasy, you name it, that come in through Canada. And that's what they want to focus on. Instead, they're now focusing on this cruel kind of detention. And they're saying to us over and over again, to myself and one of my colleagues, this is not this is not our, this is what we're supposed to do here is what's coming in and making sure that things that are coming in are safe and there's nothing illegal happening. Instead, they have them turning around doing kind of enforcement and turning on the people that are already in the United States. And so I completely agree with you in that regard and know that there are some task forces, but this is what I understand from other colleagues telling me resources are being pulled from there to focus on this arbitrary, cruel, and reckless separation of families and targeting immigrants, many of which actually come forward, are trying to go before a judge, never got that opportunity, but they're getting knocks on their door and again, instantly being removed without any due process. And this is important because I said this on WDET this morning. They asked me about Mr. Garcia and so forth. And I said this is for all of your listeners, and this is to all of you as my residents. And we don't all have to agree on what's going on with our immigration system, which is completely deteriorated and inhumane. But one thing, know this, I don't care if his name is Garcia or Mahmoud Khalil or Rasmia, their due process and their constitutional rights are ours. So when they're chipping away at their due process and their constitutional rights, that's coming after our rights, because when they start denying them, that's a slippery slope. They're going to start doing it to all of us. They're already sending letters to U.S. American attorneys and so forth. But I appreciate you understanding that's exactly what's happening. They're actually deterring resources away from actually stopping drugs from coming into our country and focusing on this fear mongering and targeting of our immigrant neighbors.
So my question follows up on that. It seems like the Democrats are having trouble deciding whether this issue is a winning issue for them, and they're checking polls instead of doing what's right.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Let me tell you a couple of times, and this is again, look, you guys, I'm one of those that I came in, I wasn't supposed to win. No, really. I only won by 890 votes. I was not the chosen one from the Democratic establishment. And even when I'm there, some people say, oh, Rashida's going to get up. She's going to remind us of, human rights and how the American people are actually not with us on this. And, but what I'm finding in them driven by these polls and everything that's coming out, and again, it depends on how they're polling people and so forth. But the SAFE Act, which was an awful voter suppression bill. It basically would make it harder for people. Maybe you get married later, but your birth certificate doesn't match up. It's a poll tax. Now you have to go get a U.S. passport, and over 50%, I think, residents don't have U.S. passports. All this to have. It was terrible. They offered it last term. We voted against it. This term, 4 Democrats joined them on that voter suppression bill. Now, with the Lakely bill, we all know it is already illegal to come illegally. If you're committing a crime, I don't care what your immigration status is, the law is applicable to you, and you can get deported and put in proceedings. That is a fact. I'm an immigration attorney too, Clarissa, and I know that for a fact. So when they did the Lakely bill, that was to gaslight and basically remove due process. So for instance, if you come, they can accuse someone of committing, so you don't have to be convicted, you just can be charged. And it puts you in deportation proceedings right away. And so the Lakely bill was awful. And I want to tell you, I think over 24 Democrats supported that bill. 24. Debbie Dingell joined me in voting against it. And she told me she couldn't believe some other Democratic members said, I can't believe you did that, because they expect me not to vote for it. But they were on her about it. And you know what I told her? Look how it aged. She goes, I'm so glad I voted against it. I said, because it is a slippery slope. It is not just about that specific awful, horrific crime that happened to Miss Lakely, but it is also opening up for this overwhelming, overreaching, unconstitutional removal of due process for so many of our neighbors. Again, this immigration system is broken. I know people that are married to U.S. citizens that cannot adjust their status because the way the laws are written, they won't let them actually fix their papers, even though they've been married to a U.S. citizen, have children and everything. And again, these are this is a country that's consistently like, oh, come here, we need you here. And then they're like, no, make up your mind. And it's the same thing what you said. If you really want to fix our immigration system, then why aren't you going after the employers that actually employ? They're the ones. Because to be honest, they are the ones who benefit from our broken immigration system. And you know, many of my residents who are undocumented in between statuses, some of them are filing asylum because they're from violence-stricken countries. And they will tell you over and over again that they don't get paid well, that all this stuff, even though they have a work authorization, they are not treated well. And they are threatened sometimes with their immigration status and saying, I'm going to call ICE on you. So again, we have to understand who profits the most off of our broken healthcare system, our broken immigration system, and all of this that is happening right now.
Hi, I live in Livonia, a half a mile away from that protest. I never found out about it. I'm not finding out about anything. I got this from you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Where do you find out where these protests are? I mean, it's like this gigantic secret, and then I see it on YouTube, and it's like, I thought you guys wanted people.
So I'm gonna make it a response. Where's Kate? Is Kate here? Kate, I'm gonna make you in charge of this gentleman right here. Kate Schakowsky right here. She is the president and chair of our Livonia Democratic Club. And she knows everything that's happened in Livonia, and she'll make sure that you get that information, right? Okay. Yeah, she's coming to you. She's gonna be your new BFF. Yeah. But you're right. And what do I always tell my team? They hear me all the time. I said, if my mom doesn't know about it, then the majority of my residents don't know about it. That's how my litmus test. Do you want to say anything about where we share information?
The Livonia Democratic Club has about 500 members. We meet every the third Thursday of every month at the Senior Center at 7 o'clock. At the Senior Center in Livonia, yeah. We have speakers at every meeting. And if you'd like to talk to me afterwards, I'd be very pleased to talk to you.
Well, there's one coming up in May. It's going to probably be bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Anyone on this?
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I'll just say it. So I'll answer partially your question, sir, that you just asked. So I'm a moderator of a Facebook group, Indivisible Michigan Community. It's not, oh, thank you. It's not an official Indivisible chapter, but its goal is to connect people to the Indivisible chapters and actual groups that are formally organized. So that group has 7,000 and growing. There's also the 50-51 movement, 50 states, 50 capitals, one day. That I've been engaged in. I've been to 5 protests since Inauguration Day. So the more that you can look around and just search for different groups, not only nearby, but also around the nation, the more likely you'll find national events. So I'll just throw that personal plug out there before my question. Rashida, I just wanted to say thank you. This is my first event that I've attended of yours, but I've been publicly beefing with all the racists in your comment sections.
You shouldn't. Just say, honestly, most of them are from out of town.
Exactly.
Yeah, just ignore them.
Yes.
They want to fight you. Just
exactly. So one of the observations from the protests that I've been to is that most people are not in my age group, and that's no shade to you millennials, older millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers. Y'all are seriously doing the work.
Boomers.
Yep, seriously. And one of the things that I'm missing is where a lot of like the Gen Zers were during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. Yeah. And I've been talking with more people my age, and it seems like some people are either just like scared or burnt out or don't know what to do. So my question is a two-parter. One, how can we get more young people engaged? Mm-hmm. And 2, how can you balance the line of taking care of yourself and self-care with putting activism first?
Yeah. So I'll start with the self-care. It's something that we talk about in our office. And one, it's okay. One thing I saw Nancy, everybody that wanted to take a picture with me, I said, well, if you take a picture with me, you have to chant in the bullhorn. No, but it was great because they felt more liberated, like they were like into it. And Nancy just had this whole huge amount of joy. And I'm reminded that joy is part of the resistance, right? That us resisting should be joyful. It should be us coming together with love and community and the sense of like loving our democracy, and that this is how it's supposed to be, for the people, by the people. And so it is also important, and I hear this a lot more from Black women who are exhausted. First, you know, I think with everything happening in the election, they feel complete. They showed up, right, in droves. The numbers are evident throughout my district. And it's like, you know what? It's okay. Let us take a turn, and let us take a shift so other people can rest, but also acknowledging it for yourselves. You don't have to come to every single thing. But I can tell you, you know, when you do have that desire of feeling like, God, I haven't done something in a while, I want to come out, then do it. But you have to acknowledge when it's that time. I have to, sometimes they know, I have to not, because every day there's something. And I'm a mama, you guys, I'm the eldest of 14. I literally was the go-to, I am the go-to person for, I'm my mother's social worker, my brother's lawyers, I mean, you name it. And so I'm the mama bear in me is like, oh my God, how do I protect? How do I do? Like I instantly drop everything, go to the border, go look at the detention center. I want to go to Louisiana so bad to go see and check out all those students and all of those things. But then measuring again, if you're not fueled and you're down, it's not going to come off as effective. So you got to recognize when you need a break and take care of yourself, because we all got each other's back. So we don't always have to do every single thing. And I say that to Kate all the time too. I always worry about her doing every single thing, and us again, sometimes allowing people to take shifts and acknowledging that so that people can rest, heal, and get back out there again. In regards to young people, I'll tell you, you know, I have a 19-year-old. Adam is, I mean, wow. You know, he is just told you this is going to happen, Mom, you know, like, and I was like, yeah, I never said I didn't think it was going to happen. But you know, for him, I mean, he's gone through COVID and everything. I just cry for him. I was just, I can't believe what my son is going through. And, you know, even on his campus, he's like texting me, ICE is on campus, Mom. And I was like, okay, you got what I taught you and everything. Even though moments talking to him, it's not fear. He's tired of the two-party system. This is my son now. He's tired of it. He's disappointed. He's angry at like, God, Mom, you know, did you see the media even completely ignored that? I mean, it's because you guys see so much more and you understand, you do. And you're seeing all of this in a whole, and that the structure is built right now to allow a fascist and all I mean, look at this. He's thriving, right? And so I think it's figuring out a way of how to get through you know, so he came with me to a Social Security administrator because he's like, well, I got to come to the Social Security because, you know, you need that, Mom. I can't keep supporting you. You know, no, he said that. He said that. You know, Adam's very like weirdly funny. You know, he's in the spectrum. So he's got that weird, like really awkward kind of humor. But I think he really meant it. Like, he's like, you know, and so he came and he left very much fueled. So you got to bring people along, work your backyard. If we could just get them out once, they'll keep coming out. You notice that, right? So if we can just get them out once, and you know that you and others, not us, but you and others can get them out. I swear, you know, my son told me, can I come to the next one, Mom? And I'm serious. He goes, that was awesome. Man, I didn't know they were doing that at the Social Security. I say, yeah, Mom, they're cutting all the federal workforce because they want to deteriorate it so they can privatize it. And so again, I think it's work in your backyard, you knowing that people trust you, get them out once and they're hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. One more question, right there. Sorry, I know, she told me to cut it off, so. Please don't leave without getting your packets to send. Okay,
I actually have a question and a comment, totally unrelated.
Yep.
The comment is Josh Hawley was saw on tape fist pumping, whatever.
I
it
know,
is,
I know.
the
That's
insurrection.
why I told
So
you I'm not a big fan of it.
it blows me away that I move with caution, right?
Yes, I
And
agree.
then my question, totally unrelated. Is anyone allowed to have a bullhorn at these rallies?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some ordinances and stuff, but you're allowed to have a bullhorn. Carol asked me to bring my bullhorn. If you notice, that was me chanting. I would bring my bullhorn, my Speak Truth to Power bullhorn. But you're absolutely allowed to have, yeah, you're allowed to bring that. And I think next time you're gonna probably see us with a speaker, because we kind of want some music, you know, put some 70s thing going on and stuff. Yeah. No, we did that with the thing. It was harder, but I think we're gonna see a little bit more bringing music to our movement, resistance movement. But bullhorn is absolutely allowed. Noise stuff and ordinance come into effect after a certain time. Really quick, here's our next training, training on Tuesday, May 27th, 6 to 8 p.m. You'd look out for any and other announcements on that. For National Lawyers Guild to help protect protesters. And again, some of you are coming to protest anyways. You can be a Lawyers Guild green hat holder and observer. I have a friend, Annie, she is an introvert. She doesn't like chanting, but she'll be a legal observer and she's note taking. So you know somebody that can do that. We also have outside, grab a flyer. We're learning, we're doing a coworker kind of training, workplace organizing training series. Our next one is 2 Saturdays, May 10th and May 17th. Again, the flyers are right out there at the Democratic Socialists of America DSA table. We're also doing phone banking. So we have a list. We worked with the Michigan Democratic Party. We got a list of John James residents. So come in, do 5, 6, 7, 8 calls. First of all, they're going to be shocked because you're going to be like, hi, I'm Clarissa. I live in Wayne County. I'm calling you because, you know, I checked my member of Congress. She's not going to vote for the Medicaid cuts, but your member is really bad and hasn't, you know, voted not once or twice. We're going to give you a script and you're going to say, can you please, here's John James' number. Can you please call and activate? We are going to get activated in Macomb County to put the pressure on him. By the way, he just announced he wants to be governor of the state. So yeah. So please sign up. And I think that's also outside. You can sign up for that. And yeah, and don't leave without postcards, right? Postcards. Don't take them unless you're gonna do them, please. And you don't have to like use your real name, no. When I do call time, ask them. My name is Rachel, because if I say Rashida Tlaib, they're gonna be like, what? So I say, I'm like, no, it's true. Hey, it's Rachel. You know, mom too, and you know, my son's in the spectrum, and Department of Education, like public education, was super important to my son, and you know, for IEP program, all those things. So it's important to know that you have these options. But again, it's real. These are not lies. People, neighbor to neighbor, convincing them. Yes.
So there are labels, stamps.
Yeah, you got to do all the work though. So we're going to give it to you. You're going to have to put the labels in, but it's a little packet. So you get the stamps, the postcards, and the addresses. Okay, great. And I think, so make sure these are all the organizations doing work. 482 Forward is fighting the cutting education department. Other folks, Moses is a faith-based organization working on cuts to housing, I think, maybe, or environmental. So these are all folks. They're doing the EPA stuff, the VA stuff, the housing stuff, the Medicaid for sure. Most of them are doing Medicaid and all the different programs. So you can find a home here and figuring out where you can be activated. Yes, they're all up and down. We got them tabling. Talk to 3 people, please. Work your backyard. You know, I'm the eldest of 14. I literally am the one that I have to call, you know, and sometimes I threaten. But I mean, call and talk to them about this. I mean, some of my, you know, family members are all over the place politically, but boy, when I talk to them about what's going on, they're like, this is crazy, Rashida. You need to stop them. I said, no, I can't stop it by myself. You gotta, you know, you gotta help me and you gotta resist and you gotta push back. And some of them live in other congressional districts, you know, have a family member in Grand Rapids and other areas. So again, it's really important. Attend direct action, attend a direct action with you to ask them to do that, phone bank with you. We've actually gotten more success when people bring other folks with them. And boy, some of them addicted. They come again and again on their own after that. No, it's true. They really like it. And they might come once a month, but that's okay. And again, it will be specifically around moving moving at least one Republican in our state. And that's it. Yep, go ahead.
Go back to the list of organizations.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
And also just one more thing, if anybody wants to stick around for like 10 to 15 minutes afterwards out in the parking lot, Erik, who did our direct action training, we're gonna do like a little practice demonstration.
He really wants to do this. It's fun, just try it.
If anybody feels like they need a little practice of understanding what the different roles are and how to successfully participate in direct action, meet Erik outside in the parking lot right after this.
Yeah, he's totally going to do it too. Can you guys give a round of applause to my team? They did a great job. Team members, raise your hand. We got our Mehdi, who just started our Congressional Youth Council. He's amazing. Raise your hand. He's fighting against the Cuts the Department of Education. Got Brianne. Am I missing anybody? Luke, wait, you get Luke. Luke helped design the postcards. Carolina, I know, but I love you. Carolina's leaving at the end of this month, but she's not going too far. We're gonna make her come back in a year, maybe. Okay. And then of course, Denzel, who runs our communications work, and Layla, who is our director of operations. And then where's Tara? Tara somewhere. Tara does all, yep, she's the hustle and bustle. You'll see her out there. Please, again, thank them so much. They're under a lot of stress because of all of us are feeling this. And so I'm really, really glad we pulled this. Thank you all so much for coming out. This is really important. Which one? And information is out on the table to contact us. And we're also.
Hello. We're going to share all of this information through an email afterwards. So you'll have the slides and all of this information.
Thank you so much.